The Batman Part 2. Could Mr. Freeze actually be in it? Hi you, King here. And as of now, we don't really know who's going to be the main villain of the Batman Part 2, but there's been speculation of either it's going to be Mr. Freeze or the Court of Owls. And even though I would rather prefer the Court of Owls, the reason I'm making this video is because I have a couple of ideas of how Mr. Freeze could work in the movie either way. Especially because a lot of people say they can't really see Matt Reeves putting a fantastical character like Mr. Freeze in his grounded universe of the Batman, because it's very similar to that of Christopher Nolan's grounded universe of the Dark Knight trilogy. But I have a couple of theories that will oppose their denials, explaining why it would be possible for Matt Reeves to implement a fantastical character like Mr. Freeze in the sequel, especially since the Batman Part 2 is set to take place during wintertime. You see, one of the theories I have is Mr. Freeze is a scientist, specifically one that specializes in the science of experimental cryogenics. You see, I thought it'd be both awesome and possible if he was a scientist employed and funded secretly by the Court of Owls. And I thought it'd be cool, pun intended, if his work had a lot to do about slowing down the aging and decomposing process of living organisms, exponentially increasing their lifespans by putting them in frozen coma-like states through experimental cryogenic capsules, which would be a secret funded scientific process that would only be known by the high elites of Gotham, who would be part of said Court of Owls. And why would they fund such a process? To allow for their deadly trained secret group of assassins known as the Talons to be put on ice and unfrozen whenever the time comes for someone to be erased. But I get it, you might be asking yourself, why not just hire a lethal group of assassins like the League of Shadows? And my theory to that is, they want an assassin group that they own, that they can use and turn on and off like a toy. Assassins that they can freeze and then pass on to their descendants and their descendants who will unfreeze them and use them to ascertain wealth and maintain their statuses through killing their enemies or anybody that becomes a problem. And to help with that will be the very person who created the process in the first place, Victor Freeze, through extending his own life through the process as well, by putting himself and his beloved wife Nora Freeze on ice to live decades longer than they normally would have, only being unfrozen whenever new Talons need freezing or old Talons need unfreezing. And my theory as to why he would be part of such a devilish project is because the evil Court of Owls could have promised them that with their unlimited resources, they could fund his research into finding a cure to his wife's currently uncurable disease. Because even though she's able to live exponentially longer because of the cryogenic slumber, that's while she is frozen, and that's not really much of a life. And the more she is out of the cryogenic capsule, the quicker the disease is able to kill her, and Mr. Freeze is unable to accept that and is desperate to save his wife from that fate, which is why he would willingly be the Court of Owls puppet. I could also see him needing a specialized suit similar to the ones he wears in the comics to maintain his body's cold temperature to keep it from decaying quickly as a side effect of long-term use of the cryogenic capsules. And is one of the reasons, and one of my theories, as to why the Talons can't be unfrozen for prolonged use lest you want them to start decaying 3 days later while out in the field. And though much of the things I've said sounds too fantastical for the Batman, they are proven in science in the real world. And if you were funded exponentially by the Court of Owls, I believe the science could advance to a point where people could live decades longer through cryogenic slumber. Hence, Mr. Freeze could be vital for the Court of Owls and be the very reason why they are using him in the sequel if they are the main villains. If not, Mr. Freeze could be the main villain that could lead towards the Court of Owls being the main villain for a Batman Part 3. But all of that is just a theory. Same with my final theory as to how they could implement his freeze gun. Being a gun-like hose device that releases liquid nitrogen vapors that freezes anything that the vapors touch, but being something that he could only utilize while in his lab to make it as realistic and grounded as possible, is something I believe could make the fans hype while also being as faithful to the comics as possible in the Batman-verse. But that's all my thoughts and ideas as to how Mr. Freeze can be part of the Batman Part 2. If you like them, then like, share, subscribe, and follow, as well as comment down your thoughts below. What do you think how Mr. Freeze can be part of the Batman Part 2? Or if you don't think he's going to be part of the Batman Part 2, put your ideas and speculations as to who you believe is going to be the main villain or antagonist of the Batman Part 2 and why. Now, Matt Reeves has revealed that the events of the Penguin will lead directly into the Batman Part 2, and that it will be an even more personal story for Bruce and put him into an even more deeper, dangerous mystery. But people are wondering how. Well, Matt Reeves also revealed that he had laid clues in the scenes of the Batman Part 1 as to what that greater, mysterious danger could be. So I figure, why not break down the Batman to hopefully reveal what that mystery is? Let's start here. Matt Reeves said there were clues in the Batman Part 1 that will indicate the story for the Batman Part 2. And the biggest clue everyone keeps bringing back up is the owl letter message from the Riddler, possibly indicating the Court of Owls. But when you really get into the Batman movie, dissecting it, breaking down every little scene, you realize there's a lot of things connecting it to the Court of Owls. Not just from how the most influential and rich of Gothamites can break and control the system, but to even how Batman's own costume could have been inspired by the personal assassins of the Court of Owls, the Talons. First up, how that connects to the orphanage. You see, just like Bruce, just like Riddler, these orphans could have grown up to be anything, but that always depends on who adopts them. But what if there was a secret organization adopting them, but keeping it off the books, off record, so no one knew what happened to these orphans? All they knew was that they got adopted, but there wasn't even any record showing that those orphans ever existed. And instead of growing up to be, police or nurses, doctors, firefighters, anything, instead they were secretly trained up to be assassins. And what if something like this had been happening for years, centuries even under the good old noses of Thomas and Martha Wayne, especially since Thomas would have been more focused on keeping Martha's mental illness a secret from the public. But speaking of the Waynes, if the Court of Owl is made up of the richest of Gothamites, am I saying that Thomas and Martha was secretly a part of the court? No. You see, I do believe that the Court of Owls did reach out to the Waynes for them to join, as they are rich and powerful enough to be one of their members, but because of the Waynes' moral standards, they had declined the offer. But with knowing how dangerous the Court of Owls are, they decided to keep their existence a secret. But the problem was they just didn't realize how dangerous they were, as the Court of Owls decided they couldn't just let a wild card of a family like the Waynes continue to live on. So they manipulated events, leading to the possible leak of Martha's illness getting out, Carmel Falcone getting involved with Thomas Wayne, and all of that leading towards the mysterious death of the Waynes. Where even in the movie it was revealed that Falcone didn't know who actually killed the Waynes, and neither did Alfred. A murder mystery so great that even the Riddler couldn't solve it, because even the Riddler didn't know of the Court of Owls' existence. All he thought was that Gotham was being led by corrupt leaders that were being paid by the crime families of Gotham, never once considering there might be an even deeper, darker, more powerful echelon of secret leaders controlling Gotham. And with the Court of Owls being the true cause behind his parents' murder, could be the reason why it could be an even more personal story for Bruce. I mean, the truth of the matter is, the Court of Owls is supposed to be a scary bedtime story, a myth told throughout the history of Gotham. So what if young Bruce, hearing the tales of the myth about the Court of Owls and their assassins, the Talons, was inspired by the details of the Talons' costume to create his own costume in their likeness? To strike even more fear into the hearts of criminals before the events of the Batman Part 2, where he would realize the Court of Owls is the cause behind his parents' murder, which could really mess with him psychologically and make for even more in-depth, compelling storytelling. And to put more emphasis on why the Court of Owls would make so much sense, we're talking about a secret organization full of rich billionaires that have been controlling Gotham for centuries, who would have all this time strategically been using their group of assassins, the Talons, to take out anyone who would have either been a threat to their power, or by assassinating them would have granted them even more power, and utilizing the unrelenting criminal element of Gotham to act as the blame for those mysterious deaths, such as the crime families and the mentally insane of Gotham, which would have been the reason why Arkham Asylum would have been built in the first place. But because they control the records and practically the entire system, they make places like Arkham Asylum and Blackgate Prison revolving doors, allowing these criminals back on the streets to distract society from the true cause of all these deaths. And I believe that all these crime bosses know of the Court of Owls' existence because they're practically like their servants. With whatever the court wants, they'll do it because, one, they don't want to be killed by their Talons, and two, they'll most likely pay handsomely for it. And I think Carmel Falcone was one of the crime bosses that knew of the Court of Owls' existence. I mean, he even said it himself in the first Batman movie that the stuff he knows, they'll have him walking within a day or a week because he knows too much, i.e. he knows about the Court of Owls and has probably been a loyal servant to them. And I believe with him being gone and the Penguin rising up to the similar type status or even greater, that the Court of Owls will reach out to the Penguin. The Penguin will know of their existence and will become their newest type servant. But like I said at the beginning of this video, the Penguin series has cracked the story for the Batman Part 2, in my opinion, where I believe the story will start with Penguin finding out about the Court of Owls and becoming their newest lapdog. The story will continue with Bruce finding out about the Court of Owls and trying to solve this encompassing mystery that wraps around the murder of his parents and the history of Gotham, and how it will end with hopefully Bruce being able to take them down, if not, at least become one step closer to cleaning up the streets of Gotham for good. Batman Part 2. We are loving Colin Farrell's portrayal as the Penguin in the awesome, amazing The Penguin series, which you should be checking out because it is getting high praise from everywhere, from those who are normally toxic negative to those who are normally toxic positive to all things in between. So go check out The Penguin. But this video is not about that, even though Colin Farrell definitely deserves an Emmy. This video is about what type of gadgets should the Batman in the Batman Part 2 will be using. So yeah, let's go. Theory time! First off, we love the grounded portrayal of the Batman, but we also love even more how fantastical some of his gadgets were in the Batman movie. fantastical gadgets like the contact lens that records everything, that allows Bruce to replay events that he has witnessed again and again, allowing him to really dive into his detective role as the Batman, because that's quite ingenious when you think about it. It's kind of how things normally are when you don't realize a certain thing the first time, replaying a movie or replaying like a case again and again, going over a case again and again. You'll see things or realize things you didn't notice the first time, allowing you to, figure out stuff that a person only seeing it once wouldn't. Or his bulletproof bat suit that can shift into a glide suit for aerial escapes, or his tank of a Batmobile that looks like a Charger, like a muscle car that can ram through concrete and cement and like really catch up to high speeding vehicles. That like a vial of like venom-like liquid that when he injects it into himself gives him that boost of adrenaline. It could have just been a vial of adrenaline when I think about it, but it really helps in like high stakes scenario where he's like weak and beaten down, to give him that extra oomph to get back into the fight. His retractable grappling hook guns that come out of his gauntlets that allow him to pull himself quickly to high places, or to even pull others and enemies closer to him, to even his emergency, very useful batarang that also acts as the symbol on his chest. I mean, this Batman had a lot of fantastical gear that was still grounded in, modern advancing sciences, but was still like the cherry on top of the Batman movie. So you have to know, in this new The Batman movie, he's going to have a new suit and new gadgets based off of the experiences he had in part 1. Same with new vehicles, one of which being a new type of bat bike, which in this case would be a hover bike based off of the Hover Surf Scorpion 3. Yeah, this could be the Bat Bike 2.0. Alfred could bring it in a van during specific scenarios, and Batman could ride it all the way up to the top of high buildings he normally wouldn't be able to gain access through because of various locked doors and wasting time with stairs and elevators. And because we know his Batsuit can retract the cape, we don't have to worry about it being stuck in the propellers once Batman takes off with it. And it'd be so cool imagery-wise, because in the night of Gotham, during, let's say, a chase, it'll look like a giant bat's coming after you. And speaking of bats, the second type of fantastical gadget that Batman could use could be a drone. A portable drone that could be small and attached to his belt, that whenever Batman needs to do some surveillance in areas that he can't go himself, he can pop it off and have it start flying, controlling it through a remote control that would also be a part of his belt. It would be colored black and have like almost no sound while flying through the air, making it appear like a bat, hence the nickname, the Bat Drone. And I could also see this Batman using explosive plastique in the Batman Part 2. Small clumps of clay that he can pull out of compartments of his belt to attach to doors, walls, what have you, and then just have the trigger also on his belt that he can press that will specifically trigger whichever clumps of clay that he has activated, so that not all of them go off at once, and that activated clay will have enough force to take down a door or a weak wall, allowing Batman to gain entry to wherever he needs to. And the last fantastical gadget that I could see Matt Reeves integrating into the Batman Part 2 without it feeling too much or giving Batman too much that it takes away from the story is a bat defibrillator / taser. Something he can make a part of his belt or take off when not in use and just keep it in a compartment in the Batmobile. The bat defibrillator can allow Batman, one, a way to bring even more pain to criminals by having it connect to circuitry in his suit that goes all the way to his hands, that allows him to literally taser people that he grabs, or even shock punch people that he's fighting against, just to make sure when they go down, they stay down. But also he can use that energy surge that if someone is unconscious and their heart's slowing down or it has stopped, he can use that electrical current to shock their heart back into pumping and shock them into being conscious. He could also do it with himself, where if, let's say, he's in that similar type of scenario where he's down for the count, but this time his heart has stopped or is slowing down, he can use that bat defibrillator to shock his own heart back into pumping again to get him back into the fight, which again would be so badass and extreme, but just the way we like it in the Batman. Yeah, it would be an awesome, fantastical gadget for the Batman to be using, and the best part, it would also feel super grounded as well. So those were the list of fantastical gadgets that Matt Reeves can have the Batman use in the Batman Part 2. If you like my ideas and would like to see them in the Batman Part 2, please like, share, subscribe, and follow. If you have your own ideas of gadgetry that is fantastical but both grounded that the Batman could be using in Part 2, then comment those gadgets down below. Matt Reeves, the Batman, is great. Matt Reeves, the Penguin, is somehow even better. But what if Matt Reeves made a spin-off movie of The Green Arrow? Theory time! Warner Brother execs are piling over the many ways they can try to exploit Matt Reeves' amazing movie / series spin-off, The Batman and the Penguin, since both of them are phenomenal, and Colin Farrell deserves an Emmy along with the actress who plays Sophia Falcone. And they're giving Matt Reeves a lot more power and money to create what they are calling the Gothamverse. But honestly, I would want Matt Reeves to kind of go for the stars and try a little bit more than just Batman-centered characters in the Bat family. And a lot of people would want the Batman to be the start of James Gunn's DCU. But now that I think about it, with how Matt Reeves perfectly tackles grounded characters, I actually wouldn't want the Batman to start off this fantastical universe that James Gunn's helming, but instead tackle a more grounded version of DC Comics, a more grounded, realistic version of the DCU. As James Gunn did say, all other DC comic movies running concurrently with his own would still technically be part of the DCU, but would be in like another universe parallel to his own, like the multiverse that he calls elsewhere, just like in the comics. So by that term, there's no real red tape that could keep Matt Reeves from tackling other characters beyond Batman focused characters. Which brings me to the point of this video. Because Green Arrow, like most non-powered heroes, vigilantes, or villains, are like Batman, where they are either a great combatant, they're super intelligent, or they just come from a lot of money and can afford a lot of wonderful toys. And I know we all remember the Arrow series, specifically season 1 and season 2, that came out on CW, that was so awesome and unprecedented for its time, that it sparked a whole universe, the Arrowverse, that had The Flash and all these other TV superhero shows. And why was season 1 and season 2 that good? Because the showrunner took a page from the Batman in the comics and decided to make a darker, more grounded version of Green Arrow, and it just worked. And unfortunately, Green Arrow hasn't been in the limelight ever since the Arrowverse, now infamously known as the CW-verse, fell. And we also know that Green Arrow isn't on the docket to have a movie or show in James Gunn's DCU for a while. We don't even know if he even is gonna like focus on Green Arrow. So why not give this grounded Batman-like character to Matt Reeves, who has shown to tell phenomenal grounded Batman-type stories? And that way it could be the start of Matt Reeves' own DCU, a more grounded, realistic one that if people are getting tired of the fantastical, they can go elsewhere to Matt Reeves' DC movies and have a more realistic change to it. And the way James Gunn's movies could build up to a Justice League movie filled of fantastical characters like Superman, The Flash, Wonder Woman, and etc., you could have Matt Reeves movies build up to a Outsiders movie, which could be a team full of grounded characters, each with their own unique traits and skills, such as the Batman, the Green Arrow, maybe the Huntress, Catwoman, and, you know, different other characters like Azrael and who else with no powers that are interesting in the comics that doesn't really get a chance to shine and, you know, get faded into obscurity because they have no powers. You can list those characters down below in the comments. As for who I would want to play this Matt Reeves Green Arrow, I would really like if Matt Reeves would hire Austin Butler, you know, give him the Robert Pattinson treatment where everyone's just like, I can't see this guy as the Green Arrow. And then as soon as that first trailer drops, everyone's like, something in the way, just the way it was with Robert Pattinson when we first got the look at his suit. So I'm hoping that, you know, someone from WB execs sees this and gets the bright idea and, you know, talks to Matt Reeves about it. And, you know, as soon as the Batman Part 2 drops, that's when it's announced that we're also getting the Green Arrow spinoff movie by Matt Reeves. It would be just wonderful, honestly. But this was just to present the idea and why it could be sound. In this video, I'll be focusing on one of those said characters, Green Arrow, and his city, Star City, and how Matt Reeves could tell their story in their movie. Theory time! Now, Green Arrow has always been a Batman archetype. He's a non-powered human who comes from a super rich family and has inherited all that money to fund his vigilante heroic escapades. Utilizing his high intelligence, extreme perseverance, and most of all, advanced gadgetry to have a one-up on his villains, whether they're superpowered or not. And if you're a Green Arrow fan, especially after watching the Arrow series on CW, then you would know Oliver Queen, the true identity of the Green Arrow, had his origin start when he was lost at sea for 5 years, being stranded on a mysterious island. Not wanting to die on the island, he did his best to survive, taking the little bit of archery he knew and crafting bows and arrows from the sticks and other materials that he could find on the island. He would go for those 5 years, turning from a spoiled rich kid who couldn't do anything for himself into a giga chad of a hunter and survivor. Eventually returning back to society, realizing there's so much more he could have done with his wealth and resources, that after taking back his company, he decided to secretly be a vigilante during the night and run his company to help people during the day. Now, Matt Reeves is good at telling super grounded story that is both emotional and impactful, while also having fantastical elements. And that's Green Arrow to a T. And we could start with who the main villain of the movie could be. Because like in The Penguin, which you should be watching because it's so great, Colin Farrell and the actress who plays Sophia Falcone, Christina Miliani, I believe, both deserve an Emmy. But as I was saying, like in The Penguin, they introduced these two crime gangs called the Neon Dragons and the Triad, I believe, both being Chinese crime gangs, like gangsters. And this is important because in most iterations of Green Arrow's origin, it is revealed that that island that he got stranded on wasn't really isolated even before he got on it, that a organization of Chinese triads was using the island to move shipments secretly of drugs, and human traffic people, with it being led by DC Comics villain China White. And you could have her be the main villain, as she could have had a long history with Oliver Queen, since on the island he could have helped stop this whole organization's drug and human trafficking ring by utilizing their communication devices to signal out to the authorities to have them come to the island and not only, put a halt to all of this, but also rescue him, allowing him to get back to society. And this could be a simple revenge story, with China White having escaped the authorities, tracking down Oliver Queen back to Star City. She could have brought, enforcers to help destroy his company and his image, while also Oliver Queen, on the other hand, would be trying to fight her and her enforcers as the Green Arrow. And we could start the movie before learning all of this, after Oliver has become the Green Arrow, sort of like a year into his career. And we could slowly find this origin and story out through the different interactions between the different characters throughout the story. And as for the enforcers China White could have brought to make this truly grounded and an epic fight movie, we could have Richard Dragon, known for being one of the best combatants in DC Comics, as well as Shiva, being known as the deadliest fighter in DC Comics. And this could turn the whole movie into a survival mystery as well, while Oliver Queen during the day is dealing with not just a group bringing out skeletons from his company's closets trying to bankrupt it, but also assassins going through his bodyguards trying to kill him. While at night, as the Green Arrow, he's trying to hunt them down, figuring out, the truth behind it all, and realizing the true antagonist of the whole film is China White, who has a vendetta against Oliver Queen, now the Green Arrow. And it could all climax to the point of Oliver fighting against China White, who is also known for being a great combatant and weapon user in the comics. And maybe they could have an archery off, with her wanting to kill him, show him off through utilizing his own best type of weapon to do so, with her arrogance being the advantage he could use to beat her at her own game. But he would not kill her, as this version of Green Arrow, even though it would be similar to the version of Arrow from Season 1 and Season 2, he still wouldn't be taking lives in this movie to show off that he is very similar to Batman, as he'll have like a no, taking lives rule, through utilizing advanced gadgetry to make his arrows effective but non-lethal. Because in this movie, he'll craft and have the following: a taser arrow, a grapple arrow, a gas arrow, a sonic arrow, a tracking arrow, and finally a bomb arrow. And of course, he'll have normal arrows, but with how precise and effective of an archer he is, he knows where to shoot to either leave a warning shot or to hit someone in a non-fatal part of their body. And this non-killing rule could have been something he developed during his first year off the island, as he would have been dropping bodies left and right as the Green Arrow during the first half of the year, but realizing that, oh, this is really bad for my image, with everyone becoming afraid of me, seeing me as just a killer, so let me just do the non-lethal route, just so people wouldn't be afraid of me trying to save them. And it worked, with a lot of people seeing him more and more as a heroic vigilante than just a random murderer. And Matt Reeves could have characters like Oliver's sister or police officials allude to that, so it'll be a whole encompassing story that isn't going to have any plot holes or leave stuff out, and be well told throughout the various interactions and fights of the movie. And as it is a spin-off movie, it's just to serve the point of showing off a different part of Matt Reeves' The Batman universe, while also letting you know that it won't be getting a sequel, as it is just to show that the universe is big and is filled with various different types of grounded characters, and that we might be seeing this version of Green Arrow team up with the Batman and maybe even form an outcast group, which is their grounded version of the Justice League. But those are just my thoughts on how Matt Reeves could do the Green Arrow spin-off movie. If you like them, then please like, share, subscribe, and follow on this video. If you have your own thoughts, then comment so down below. If this video gets enough likes, then I'll make another video on how Matt Reeves could tackle a spin-off movie of The Huntress, which is another grounded female non-powered vigilante character from the comics. Ring that notification bell so you know when videos like this drop, and until the next video, whatever it may be, stay great.